Assalamu alaikum. I speak to you, all of us. We sit together here, this masjid, on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And it's important for us to acknowledge this. And the reason I say this, it's those First Nations who welcomed all of us, regardless of what century you came from, what decade you came to these lands. And before there was a Canada, there were the First Nations, and they welcomed us onto these lands. They didn't look at what religion that we had. They looked at, can we contribute to these lands? And they continue to welcome us. And yesterday, when I attended the vigil with many of you there was a Indigenous elder who didn't have to be there, but when she heard of the survivor of the family, the young boy who needed to be comforted, because knowing that the family is completely lost, she went up on stage and wanted a Thunderbird blanket presented to this boy to know that you are not alone. She didn't have to do this, she came there. Why do I share this with you? I share this with you because she came to grieve there with you, even though we know what the First Nations community is currently going through. And she gave me this. And I've known her for years. I share this with you because times of anger, times where we're grieving, times when we're hurting, there are good people that come together. And that's what we need to focus on. Because that's what the true Canada is about. We know the legacy. We all know it too well. We have made many apologies as a government, as we should, to acknowledge the wrongs of the past. And it's the right thing to do. To acknowledge it, you learn from it. And we will learn together with the tragedies that always brings us together. This is not the first time I've come here because of tragedies. And I'm going to be honest with you, this may not be the last time. And not just for our community. When I see ours, even though I'm a Sikh, I consider a part of your community, especially when there's tragedy. When the family was struck by that individual who had hate in his heart, I want to just come out and say, I'm a Muslim. When Jews are attacked and killed, I want to say, I am Jewish. Because that's what Canada is about. So before I talk about some personal perspective, I won't give you our government's perspective. You know me, and you know our Prime Minister. When we talk about multiculturalism, what does it mean? It is not words. It's about what we feel inside. We know that because we also know what his father, when he created our Constitution and putting the Charter of Rights and enshrining those rights inside, what that changed our country. It doesn't mean you become a euphoric society. It means you still have to work towards it. And we're not there yet. We've had incidents in our global history that have brought that hate back. Where it was put into a box, it didn't go away anywhere. But unfortunately, it has been emboldened. And it's also tragic that social media, sometimes the way it's used, will also embolden viewpoints. And families, peaceful families who just want to contribute to this country, pay the price of that hate. So there's many things that I can talk to you about what we have done. But those actions there are not going to give any solace to that family. But the reason I mention this to you, because those actions matter. And when you slowly work, just like with things I've done in the past, things change. And things change for the better. So I'll give you one small example. Before, we used to read reports about hyphenated terrorists. And religion used to be attached to that. Whether it's your religion, or used to be ours, and many others. One of the things we put a policy in place now. Religions have nothing to do with this. Individuals do. So now, when reports are written, it doesn't create this unconscious bias inside when somebody reads it and start labeling religions or organizations. It names the organization that's involved or the individual that might be involved. Now you say, why does that something like this matter? It does matter. Because when our experts start to read reports, or they publish things that are unclassified out to the people, those words don't end up labeling. And we've seen this far too often. That's just one small step. We've also had to look at putting security funding into religious places of worship. The last place where we should having to put some more security. But it's needed, and we will do that. And we will look at other efforts as well. Plus, when it comes to terrorism, we are actually putting white supremacist groups on the terrorist list. And more will come. It is done through an independent process that our security agencies go through. Why? Because we also look at the attacks that have happened on our soil. It has not just been induced by foreign influence. It's been brought up through hate. And we need to call it out. And we are. And our Prime Minister does. But no government, regardless how much you feel, can overnight make things better. And I'm not going to sit here and say this, that things will be immediately better by next week or next month. This will take effort. It will take all our effort. Governments, communities, businesses, media. Because we are all part of Canada. But by working together, we can do so. And when people speak with passion and anger at the vigils, you know what? That's okay. Because that's the healing process. And we all should be angered by this. But we have to look at what actions are we going to take. So next I'm going to speak to you not just as a minister, not just as a member of Parliament. I'm going to talk to you as a community member, as a citizen of Canada, as a person who came to Canada when I was 5 years old because my parents made this choice to come to this beautiful land. I used to be fearful when I was a child going out for walks. Those of you of my generation, my parents' generation, would know this. Because we'd be fearful of attacks. We know that many people from our community used to carry grass hockey sticks in the back car. Why did they do this? They didn't carry bats. Because grass hockey sticks is something that we used to play. And what they didn't carry to play grass hockey is to protect themselves. And far too often I had to watch my dad protect himself and the family just for going to a place where we should have belonged just as Canadians. I didn't have a turban on my head all my life. In fact, it was only in high school I decided to wear a turban. My sister decided even later on in life to put a turban on in the Sikh faith. Very visible. She lives in the US now. I know what it means to have eyes on you. I know what it means to be attacked physically. I don't say this to you to gain your sympathy. I say this to you that when some of us, when we go into politics, we take that with us. And when we look at policies and the decisions that we need to make, we bring that experience into it. And when we see these attacks that happen, we put ourselves there. So when I see this family that has been taken away, I see my family could have been there. And one of the reasons I got into policing is so that I could do something about these things. The reason I joined the military was so I could put a uniform on and be able to help people and carry out these things all over the world. And I got into politics because I still saw there were signs of this in our community, in our country. And I wanted to make a difference in my own community of South Vancouver. That's why I got into politics. Because I also realized what leaders say matters. They're words that are used. And their actions must also follow it. And when I spoke to It was that time, just Justin Trudeau at that time. We talked about this. And one thing I can assure you, he believes in this. We will do everything in our power as a government to root this out. We will set an example for the rest of the world. We will not compare ourselves to other countries to say, oh, no, look, we're better off than another country. No. We have to hold ourselves to our own standard in this country. Far too often, when we see these tragedies, there are so many other tragedies that are taking place that don't even go reported. We know this. Our children who are growing up, we need to make it better for them so that they don't have to deal with these things. Now, I can't promise you that this is going to happen overnight. And I want to be brutally honest with you. But I can promise you, in this country, what I have seen, the potential in this country, from all communities who have come onto the First Nations lands, that the will and desire is there. I have seen people celebrating each other's cultures on this land, coming together, learning from one another. And my brother Haroon talked about education. That's what we need to do. I too was educated. Just because people, when a lot of my other friends, white friends, who would think just because I wear a turban that I know the Muslim culture. When I served in Afghanistan, it's hard. You did really well because you know the culture. I said, no. I'm born in a completely different area. I had to learn the culture the same way as everybody else. But through education, you get to learn, and you realize how similar we are. Now, these are words that are not going to take this pain away, nor should it. But we have to keep working towards this because we have no choice. We have to. But I can guarantee you, we will make this country better. So what do we do? Government can't do this alone. Don't look to us solely. We'll be with you. We will help lead initiatives. We will listen to you. But this is up to us as well. So what can we do? And I thought you to think a lot about this. And I used to remember when incidents used to happen, what can we do? And my sister said, we need to succeed. Think about this for a second. Why these people, are they fearful of us? Because we're getting into positions of this country. Why? Because we're Canadian. And some take it to the level of absolute hate and take it to the next level. But guess what? We're not going to stop succeeding. In fact, we're going to be emboldened to do more. So what I try to do is, we need to help mentor our younger members of our community. Help them to succeed. You want to know the best revenge, that best advice was ever given to me, is your success. I might be the Minister of National Defence. I don't look at that as success. I look at this as progress. Success will be when we have more and more people coming into positions. Success will be when we have a woman with a hijab who can be Prime Minister of this country. And it will happen one day. It may not happen overnight. But we can be that beacon of hope to the rest of the world, even at these darkest times. And I will stand with you. I will work with you. I will fight with you to make those changes at the time of grief. So once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with all of you. Assalamu alaikum.